Today we're going to install a new rack and pinion. Currently the one I have in the car right now is leaking like a sieve out of the driver's side boot. So we're going to replace it with an Ac Delco remanufactured rack and pinion. First what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to jack the car up and then work on taking each tire off, and then we'll get to the tie rod ends after that. So before jacking the car up, we're gonna loosen we're gonna take the lug nut caps off first and loosen all the lug nuts. Alright, now that the lugs are all loosened up and on each side, we're going to start jacking the car up and take the wheel off. You want to make sure each jack stand is correctly underneath the pinch welds. Now we're going to go grab some bricks. You're going to want to set these if you're jacking the car up this high for the back tires, because if you let it down now, the jack stand will start moving. So make sure each brick is snug against the rear tires. That way when you let it down, the jack stands won't start tilting backwards. Now the bricks are supporting the rear tires. If we go under here really quick, as you can see, there's a puddle already started from when I parked it 5 minutes ago. And right here, that's where the issue lies. Look real close, you can see this boot's kind of torn, and it's also leaking consistently out of that same boot. So my guess is one of the inside bushings is shot, and that's where it's all coming from. In order to remove this rack and pinion on the 98-02 Camaros, you've got one bolt that goes up through here, one bolt goes up through here. Actually, the bolt comes down, and there's a nut in the bottom. This side will be easy to get to, but this side, as you can see, maybe up here, the bolt's gonna hit the oil pan. So I'm gonna have to cut the bolt so it'll come out the bottom, and then get a new bolt and go through the bottom to the top. And then we'll have to take the tires off, take the tie rod ends off, and then disconnect these lines right here. Now the tires are all off. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take this little clip, this metal little pin right out of the top of the crown nut, take it out, unscrew this nut, and then drop the tie rod end, and then undo this nut right here and unscrew it on both sides. What you might want to do once you get this crown nut off is leave it on once you get to break free from the actual knuckle, because if you leave it on, you actually have leverage to when you need to get that nut right there loose. So leave it on the knuckle, put the crown on it to keep it secured, and then you're going to want to loosen this, and then after that we're going to unscrew it and count how many threads it comes off with. Turn to the right to loosen it. So once you do that, you can just back the, actually keep the bolt somewhat close to where the tie rod end is. Now undo the crown cap, and then just slide this out. Once you get it loose, you want to count how many threads or how many turns you turn it until it comes off. So 21. So for ours, it was about 21. And yeah, so you want to mark, or you want to take down somewhere 21 turns for the driver's side. Now we're gonna get the passenger side. Now they've got both of those tie rod ends finally off. What we're gonna need to do now is we're gonna go under here. Right in here, there's a, you can't really see it, but there's a bolt and there's a nut on it. Undo that nut. And the bolt's supposed to slide out the top, but then again, this one we gotta cut since it's gonna come in contact with the oil pan, and even I've heard lifting the engine up pretty far still won't clear the bolt out, so we're just gonna cut the head off the bolt and then drop it out here, put the new bolt into the bottom so we don't have that issue anymore. This side should be fairly easy to get out. We got a bolt right in here, same thing. You take the nut off this side, slide the bolt at the top, and it should be good to go for that one. Alright, so this bolt, it's 15 on top. Top parts are 15 on both sides. Bottom ends are 18 for the nut. This side came out fine. Bolt, no issue. This one, like I said, if I push up on it, you can see it right there. Hit the bottom of the oil pan, right on the lip of it. So that'll be fun. We gotta cut the bolt head off of that one to drop that one out. Alright, so we finally got the head of the bolt broken off. Now, since this should be somewhat loose to take out, can't take it out yet. We gotta disconnect these lines that go up to the power steering reservoir. Once we get that, we gotta catch all the fluid in the pan. After that, we gotta disconnect it from the steering knuckle itself. We also gotta make sure the steering wheel does not move, because if the steering wheel flips a whole lot, it'll break the clock spring in it. And that won't be too much fun to replace. So let's start off with taking these hoses and disconnecting them, and then we'll start with disconnecting the steering knuckle. And then once that's done, we should be able to pull the whole thing out. So for these rack and pinion lines that go to the power steering reservoir, you're supposed to use a line wrench. I've heard for them. However, I just took an 18mm and I barely moved it and it cracked open. So not sure how that was installed before, but it was barely tight and snug on there. So now that I'm going to undo this line, I'll let it drain out into the pan. I got it sitting right here, and then we're going to go into this line. Alright, now that both lines are off, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for it all to drain out into this pan, as it's starting to flow pretty well right now. But we're going to wait for all this to flow out into the pan. After that, we're going to get the steering knuckle and disconnect that. Alright, so when you're loosening that steering knuckle, there's a little bolt this big, goes right in there. Once you unscrew that, you're free to slide that knuckle back and it comes off the rack and pinion. However, when you take that off, be careful because I just did that and it started spinning. So I've tried putting it back on. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna get bungee cords and try to hold the steering wheel steady. So if that turns, it won't be enough to actually pull the steering wheel right or left because I don't want to break the clock spring for the airbag. So yeah, we're just gonna try that really quick. The rack and pinion, you got to get the crowbar and pry it out if it doesn't want to come out right away. That's what I had to do in order to get it to pop out finally. Once you get that out, you got, on the new rack and pinion, you should have bushings for one of the bolts. Like I did, this came in 3 separate pieces. You gotta push that in, kind of press them in, use a hammer or something lightly. Once you gotta center it, if you're gonna center the rack and pinion, what I did was I measured each side from right here at the end of the boot to the very end of the tie rod, and I measured about 16¼ inches on exactly each side. So we kept messing around with it, moving it by using this with a crescent wrench until you get that exact measurement on each side. Once you get that done, it should be good to throw back in the car. Alright, so the new rack and pinion's all in place. Just gotta put the steering knuckle back on, put the lines back on, tie rod ends back on. It was a big kind of struggle to get this thing to line up correctly with the holes. It was a very, very tight fit for the rack and pinion. I used a mallet a little bit to kind of hit it back and forth. I don't recommend that at all because it could possibly mess up the internals a bit, but I had to do that. I couldn't really get another way to get it to actually move. But yeah, the biggest issue I had was lining up the holes correctly. And again, once you're lining it up, when you have it in here, again, make sure you have it equal length on both sides before you put it to the steering knuckle. When I put it up here, I had it fine measured out before I put it in here. When I said put it in the car, it knocked off the alignment for that, so it wasn't centered anymore. So I just centered it now, and now we're gonna put the steering knuckle back on. Just make sure it's pretty centered, or pretty as close to center as you can get it before you actually start putting the steering knuckle back on. Alright, so at this point all the lines are finally attached. Steering knuckle's good. This rack is off about ½ an inch because I didn't calculate for this boot being a little bit messed up. But I'm just gonna leave it as that for now. But yeah, steering knuckle's on. Both these lines are connected. The tie ends are on. I gotta go buy new cotter pins for them for the castle nut, and then should be good to go. So yeah. Cotter pins are all installed, everything's all good. Rack and pinion's all installed, everything is tight. Gotta do the wheel lugs, tighten those all down. When you put it all back together, make sure you put more fluid in the reservoir. And then once you put the fluid in the reservoir, turn the car on, crank the wheel to the right and the left over and over again. Make sure it gets all the air out of the system. You'll probably lose a hole. You probably need to refill it again once it starts going to the rack and pinion, which is what I had to do. And it'll start whining for a bit and making a lot of noise. That'll go away, or should go away once you start adding more fluid, and then after a while turning it back and forth maxing out on each side, it should go away. Yeah, it should be how to change out a rack and pinion in the car. Didn't take too long, it took about 4 hours, give or take.